It started at our annual neighborhood barbecue, the one where everyone shows up with their best dishes, kids run around barefoot, and laughter fills the summer air. I had spent the morning grilling, chatting with our neighbors, trying to keep the mood light. Lydia, my wife, had been distant lately, but in public, she always wore that flawless smile, the one that made people think we were the perfect couple. When the drinks started flowing, her filter disappeared, as it often did. She stood near the fire pit, surrounded by a few of our neighbors, including Mr. and Mrs. Collins, who lived across the street, and our newly moved-in neighbor, Ryan. A single guy in his early 30s. Charming, confident, the kind of person people naturally noticed. I was serving burgers when I heard her voice rise above the laughter. "Honestly," Lydia said, laughing, "if there's a trade-in program for husbands, I might just cash in Ethan for a newer model." The crowd chuckled awkwardly, glancing at me for my reaction. She smirked and added, "Someone who actually knows how to dress, or maybe." She gestured toward Ryan. "Someone like him. Now he looks like husband material." The laughter that followed was sharper this time, less amused, more nervous. I felt my stomach twist. It wasn't the first time she'd made me the punchline, but doing it here, in front of everyone, hit differently. Still, I forced a polite smile, trying not to make a scene. I'd learned long ago that calling her out only fueled her ego. Ryan, however, didn't laugh. He took a sip of his drink, eyes narrowing slightly before saying, "Be careful what you wish for, Lydia. Some people trade what's loyal and real for something shiny, and then realize too late that shine doesn't mean substance." The crowd went quiet. The smirk on her face faltered. She laughed nervously and said, "Oh, come on, it's just a joke." Ryan smiled faintly, not unkindly, but with a calm that carried weight. "Maybe," he said, "but most jokes hide a truth, don't they?" That silenced her completely. She looked away, suddenly busy adjusting her drink. The others awkwardly changed the topic, but the tension lingered like smoke after a fire. As the night went on, I noticed how she avoided Ryan's gaze, how her laugh grew forced. For the first time, it wasn't me who looked embarrassed. It was her. I stayed polite, kept serving food, pretending nothing had happened. But inside, something shifted. That single moment, that one remark, had exposed more about our marriage than years of quiet suffering ever could. After the party ended and the neighbors left, the silence in our house was suffocating. Lydia moved around the kitchen pretending to clean up, but her hands were trembling. She finally broke the quiet. "You didn't have to stand there looking all pathetic while he humiliated me," she snapped, slamming a plate into the sink. I looked up from the chair where I sat, exhausted. "Humiliated you, Lydia? You did that yourself. You joked about trading your husband for a newer model. What did you expect people to do? Applaud?" She turned, eyes flashing. "It was a joke, Ethan. Everyone jokes like that. You always take things too seriously." I sighed. "No, Lydia. Everyone doesn't joke about replacing their spouse. You do, because deep down, you mean it." Her face tightened. "You're unbelievable. Ryan overreacted, and now you're siding with him?" "I'm not siding with anyone," I said quietly. "I'm just tired. Tired of being the man you mock to make yourself feel superior." She stared at me for a long moment, then scoffed. "Maybe if you acted like a man worth bragging about, I wouldn't have to joke." That hit hard, but it didn't break me this time. I stood slowly, meeting her gaze. You think your comments make you sound clever, Lydia. But they just show how empty you've become. You treat kindness like weakness and loyalty like a burden. Her expression faltered for a second before she turned away. Whatever. I'm going to bed. She stomped down the hallway, leaving me alone with the echo of her words. The next morning, things were tense but quiet. I went about my day, mowing the lawn, fixing the fence, trying to clear my head. Around noon, Ryan walked over from his yard. "Hey, Ethan," he said. "Mind if I give you a hand?" We worked side by side for a while before he spoke again. "Listen, I hope I didn't make things worse last night. I just couldn't stand hearing her talk like that." I shook my head. "You didn't make it worse. You said what everyone else was too polite to." He nodded thoughtfully. "You deserve respect, man, not public mockery disguised as humor." It was strange hearing that from someone who barely knew me, but it hit deeper than he realized. Because for years, I'd been waiting for someone, anyone, to see through her mask and recognize the truth of what I lived with daily. That evening, when Lydia came out to the porch, her tone was oddly quiet. "Everyone's talking about last night," she muttered. "Even Mrs. Collins." I didn't reply. I just looked at her and said, "Maybe that's what it took for you to finally hear yourself." Lydia crossed her arms, her pride still fighting to stay intact. "You're loving this, aren't you? Seeing me embarrassed for once." I shook my head slowly. "No, Lydia, I'm not happy about it. I'm just done pretending. You've made a habit of tearing me down, not just at home, but in front of others. Maybe now you'll realize words have weight." She sighed heavily, trying to regain her composure. "It wasn't that deep, Ethan. People forget these things in a day or two." I met her eyes, calm and steady. "Maybe they will, but I won't. Because that wasn't just a joke. That was a reflection of everything wrong between us. How you stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as a prop." For the first time in a long while, she didn't have a quick comeback. She just stood there, staring at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she didn't. Because for years, I'd been quiet, swallowing my pride, letting her dominate every conversation and control every narrative. But not anymore. Later that week, Ryan stopped by again to drop off some leftover tools. Lydia was sitting on the porch when he arrived. She looked uneasy, almost small. "Hey, Ryan," she said, forcing a smile. "About the other night. Sorry if I made things awkward." He shrugged. "No need to apologize to me. Just remember, Lydia, when you joke about trading someone in, you might end up showing people what you really value and what you'll lose because of it." She blinked, clearly taken aback. He handed me the wrench, nodded politely, and left. As his footsteps faded, Lydia turned to me. "You two must really think I'm a terrible person." I didn't answer right away. "I think," I said finally, "you've forgotten what respect feels like. You've been chasing admiration from strangers so long, you've forgotten the difference between being desired and being loved." Her eyes filled with tears, but there was no apology in them, only shame. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "I know," I said quietly. "You just wanted attention. But attention fades, Lydia. Dignity doesn't." That night, she slept in the guest room. The house felt heavier, but in a strange way, freer. Maybe she'd learned something, maybe not. But for the first time, I didn't care whether she did. because Ryan's words had done more than silence her. They'd reminded me that respect isn't begged for. It's reclaimed. The end.